I'm going to go ahead and go back to Dash, hovering over the home icon and go to Dashboard. And let's go ahead and go to Posts. Now we have posts and pages, and this is kind of another philosophical thing. Posts, every WordPress website has a blog. I'm going to go ahead and click on Posts, and it'll show me all my posts. And by default, you'll have one that says, "Hello world." Now, posts are dynamic things that you're writing about. It could be about different topics. The thing that I want you to remember is with every WordPress website, you get one central blog. Now, don't worry, you don't have to open up a whole bunch of websites to write about several different things. Please don't. That just makes it a lot more work for you. Instead, the way that WordPress works is you write in one central blog, but you categorize everything so that you can have people navigate to each individual category that you write to. So for instance, if you're writing an animal blog and you got cats and dogs, well, cat people don't want to read dog stuff and dog people don't want to read cat stuff. So what you'll do is as you write, you'll create categories, a category for cats and a category for dogs, so that in your navigation, when somebody goes to your blog, if they click cat, it'll filter sort all your stuff and present only cat things to cat people, and the same thing for dog people. So don't worry about having to worry about opening up a whole bunch of sites and where you're going to blog to. You're just going to blog in one, categorize, and let people navigate. The second thing is pages. Pages are static instances of content. So for instance, when you go to a website, you might see an About Me page. You're not going to be reading or writing a lot about you, or if you were, maybe you're a little bit narcissistic, but that's fine. They'll make a category for that. And if it's dynamically about you, that belongs in the blog. But if it's just simply a profile page of you, where you're at, what you're studying, that type of thing, that's a page, not necessarily a post. Pages can't be categorized because a page is just a page. It's just a dumb page, a container that holds photos and gets you a link and gets you words. That's it. Blogs are posts, they're dynamic, and that's where you're regularly writing about things and that you have a lot more control over what that content can do and where it can go. So I just want to make that delineation before I continue. I like to start with posts because, again, you get more features that way. So under posts, add new post. So title of your post here. And when you hit tab, it'll go to your body. And when you do, you'll also get that permalink. Remember, posts and pages both have unique URLs that you can always submit to Canvas or Tweet or Facebook. You can always navigate people directly to a piece of your work. You can also edit it because by default, when you put in a title, it will just hyphenate the title. So maybe you might want to shorten it, sample. When you do, click OK, and that will commit it, and it doesn't change the title of your post, just the unique URL. And then down here, it's like a boiled down version of Google Docs or Word. One thing I want to point out is the toolbar toggle. When you first get in, you might have just a single row of icons. Hit this kind of double dock looking icon to get the second row, because that's going to be important for formatting. So what I'd like you to do real quick is to kind of follow along. Let's do paragraph, heading, sub, heading, quote, stuff, photos, link. So when you type, you'll notice that the formatting is all uniform, and this is called paragraph formatting. And we can tell because of this drop down in your toolbar. Whenever you are doing anything in WordPress, be sure to specify what the content is. That's important for the theme because when we apply a theme, themes dictate what the font and the color and how big it is based off the theme. And this is important because you don't want to have every post have unique styling, because if you ever change your theme, then you got to go to every post and change things. So it's just easier to kind of bulk format. Whenever you type, everything is always paragraph. If it's not a paragraph, you have to specify it from the dropdown. So I'm going to select heading, drop down, and go heading 1. And we'll notice that 16 gives it this kind of big and bold heading. Subheading, and if you notice, I spelt heading a little bit incorrect. I've got capital H-E. Now, in your browser, Mac, PC, or Linux, if you right mouse click on this, you will get basic spell check, and really grammar check doesn't exist. I would encourage you to write your stuff, especially if you're doing a lot of academic content, write it in a proper WordPress word processing app and then copy and paste it in. That way you get that grammar and spell check feature. But for quick stuff, right mouse click when you see the little squiggle and you can do basic spell check in WordPress. Subheading, same thing. I can go through the drop down and go heading 1, heading 2, all the way out to heading 6. I'm going to make this a heading 2. Quotes. Now, perhaps when if you're writing prolifically, and we see this a lot in journalism, maybe you have a pull quote from something that you've written above or below, and it kind of leads the reader into reading more about your content. In WordPress, we call that a block quote, and you can quote out anything by coming up into your toolbar. You have bold, italicize, and then block quote. And what this will do, and it's theme dependent, it will indent and give it a very unique styling based off of what that theme has as their quotation theme. So that's kind of nice if you're breaking up big chunks of text. Stuff. What kind of stuff can you put into a WordPress post? Pretty much anything. Now, to do so, we can do it as a photo or an asset that we upload to our site. So for instance, if I wanted to put in photos, I'm going to come back to stuff in a second. If I wanted to upload a photo, what I would do is hit return underneath photo. Perhaps that's the last paragraph that I was working on. And I would go to add media up here on the top. When I do, you'll notice that you have a media browser. Now, sometimes, depending on WordPress and internet, I don't know why, but sometimes you'll default to this insert from URL page. If you do, on the left-hand side, just go up to where it says add media. That's kind of an important thing. So you'll notice that in here you have a maximum upload, as I previously said, of 50 megabytes per file. And you can select files that's on your computer, or what I like to do is just simply drag and drop from my desktop or whatever folder I have. So here I have a skull and crossbones and a tree. And over on the right-hand side, once it's uploaded, I can change things like the title, caption, alt text, and description. So title this, I'm going to call this, I don't know, PNW Pirates. Caption, this will be a caption that goes below your photograph if you so want some. The black flag of the Pacific Northwest. Alt text, this is super important and also required in some classes like English 101. And alt text it allows for the visually impaired or anyone who's using adaptive technology on their computer, whenever they go to a website, they may be using something called a screen reader. And a screen reader literally reads what's on the screen and the location of it. Well, for graphics, unless there is alt text, a person can't hear what the graphic is. So alt text, you want to put in a little brief description of what it is so that it makes your site more accessible to more people. So for instance, I might put here a skull and crossbones on a black background with a outline of a evergreen tree. And then also for your description, I usually just use what I use for the alt text as the description. You can always flesh it out a little bit more in your description, but I typically just copy and paste whatever I use as the alt text as the description. Once I have all of that, we can hit insert into post. And when we do, we get exactly what we just did. We get the caption, we get the graphic, and we can click on the graphic now and actually make it bigger or smaller. Notice that as I blow this up, this was a fairly small photo. You can only blow up photos on the internet as big as they are. So if you have a fairly small photo, make sure you keep it at its native size, if not smaller, so that you don't get that pixelated look. We can also take it and have our word wrap around the left or the right of the graphic. And that just is important because if you want to have it below a block of text and have the text wrap around it, this is how you would do it, by clicking on it and using this pop-out toolbar, and that would allow you to add text around your graphic. So getting back to stuff, what is stuff? So for instance, when you're using WordPress for Western, you may want to use photos and GIFs and even documents. You can upload a document by clicking on the area that you want it to go to and adding a document, and upload directly to your site. Now, what is acceptable is Word documents and PDFs. So let's say I wanted to upload a PDF. What I would do is just as simply as I did with a photo. I would drag and drop it into the screen. It will upload it, and if you notice, oh man, the PDF that I had exceeds the maximum size. So if you see this, you'll have to actually either make your PDF a little bit smaller or look at what you have in that PDF. And if you have some problems with making your PDF smaller, stop by the Student Technology Center and they'll be able to help you downsample your PDF if you run into this. But let's say we did have a PDF that did meet the size requirements. You'll notice that it will upload and you get similar options as you do a graphic. So for instance, title, test PDF. If you wanted a caption below it, this is a doc so you can learn. And again, I'm going to take that caption and use it as the same as my description. And I'm going to go ahead and hit select. Now here's an important piece of information. When you use the document uploader and you are set behind the firewall of Western, meaning that it's not publicly facing, what we're doing is we're using a previewer from Google. It's the same thing that you see with like Google Docs. And what this does is it'll make a window with your doc in your post. But if your site is not forward facing, if it is not public, you're going to see a lot of gobbledygook and not your document. That's okay. If you see that, that just means that everything is there. And when your site does go live and it's public, your actual document will show up. So don't worry about it. If you see the gobbledygook, which you'll understand in a second, that just means it works. You can come in and when you embed a document, you can adjust its width, its height, whether or not you want this to be downloadable. So for instance, by default, all users will be able to download your doc. Maybe you just want only logged in users, or you don't want anybody to download your thing. I'm going to say all users so you can see what the download button is, and you can actually change the text of the download button. So for instance, my doc, click here. I'm going to go ahead and hit insert. And when I do, I get this embed code. Now, what's the gobbledygook I was mentioning about a little bit ago? Well, let me show you. Over on the right-hand side, we have our publish module. I'm going to go ahead and hit save because I should be saving often. Yes, WordPress does save automatically, but as a technologist, I can't trust technology, nor should you. So save often just to make sure that your work does get saved. The next thing I want to do is hit preview. And what this will do is open up in a new tab in your browser, a preview of what you've done so far with the formatting of the text with the theme. And if you notice, here is the gobbledygook. But as we can tell, I can scroll in here. I can hit plus or minus to zoom in. I can break it out into a new window. And I can see my download link that says my doc, click here. So I can tell that it is working correctly. This gobbledygook just means that your document is here, but it's protected because we can't let Google come in until your site is public. So think of this as a placeholder. So this looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and close out that tab, which is nice of WordPress. It takes me back to where I'm editing. And let's take a look at one other thing that I want to show you, and that is adding links, either a link as an embed or a link just as like a word that people click on and go to a different place. So let's say I wanted to make the word link a link. I'm going to click on it and go up to the chain link icon, and we get this drop down. Don't just start typing in the URL, click the cog. When you get to the cog, what you're able to do is you can pull content from your site that you've already written. So for instance, if I wanted to reference that there's a sample page on every WordPress site, I could just click on this and it will automatically fill in what that URL is on your website. If you're doing an external thing, like let's say https://www.bjbarse.com, I can just type it in here, regardless if it's on your site or if it is a external link. You may want to click this checkbox that says open link in new tab, kind of like the preview that just happened. I don't know about you, but I really don't like going to websites and as I'm reading and clicking and looking at different research and different things that they're writing about, having it kind of take over where I was originally reading. So by having this checkbox, it will keep your original post open as well as anything that you've linked off to. And that's kind of a nice user interface for most websites today. The only way that you get this is if you hit that cog. So make sure that you click the cog, and then if you want that option, click open link in new tab. Once you do, hit add link, and voila, we now have a link to that website. Now, if we want to bring in an embed, because if you notice, I've talked about documents and I've talked about photos, not really video or audio. Remember, audio and video files usually are bigger than 50 megabytes. So you may want to use things like YouTube or SoundCloud if you're doing audio podcasting, for instance, or if you've done a video from the DMC and you're trying to do it and put it into your site. Once you have it up to a YouTube channel, let me show you how to bring it in as an embed. There's two ways. So I'm at YouTube now, and I'm at the video that I want to put into my post. Well, in YouTube also has a unique link for every video. And if we select all of that and hit Command or Control C on a PC, and if we go to our post and on a new line being that there's no other content there, and if we hit Command or Control V, wait a couple of seconds, it will put it in automatically. So you don't have to worry about doing any geeky embed code type stuff. But on the other hand, if you do want to do some geeky embed code stuff, let me show you. If I delete this, and that trick will also work with SoundCloud as well. So audio or video files, if you select the link, copy and paste it onto a new line into your WordPress site, we have a script that will take it and do the embed for you. If you do want to do some geeky stuff, what I encourage you to do is put a placeholder of where you want to put that video or piece of content. So I'm going to say placeholder -YouTube. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. I'm going to go back to that video that I wanted to embed. And if you don't know this trick, it's really helpful. Any YouTube video, if you go to share, you'll get this option for embed. And this is the geeky code that gets created when you actually ask for a video to be placed on a website. And if you go into this mode, you get some extra options if the creator allows it. So for instance, if you want it to start at a certain place in time. So for instance, I want my video to start 4 minutes in. I can, let me try that again, 4:00. I can add that little bit of code, and now when they come to my post and click play, it'll jump to that spot. And that's super helpful if you have a really long video and you're just trying to drive people to a certain segment. So what I'm going to do is hit copy down here in the bottom right hand corner. And when I do, I'm going to go back to my post. And remember that placeholder that we put in? I'm going to go up to the top right hand corner of my post. We have a visual tab and a text tab. Click text. And by having that highlighted placeholder -YouTube that I had in the visual mode, when we go to text mode, you'll notice that we're seeing all of the HTML that we're creating. So we have headings, block quotes, etc. But that placeholder that we had selected, we now know exactly where we need to put this little bit of code without really knowing any code. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command V and place that bit in where that placeholder text was. Click visual. And now I have that video in here. And if people come to my site and push play, it will jump into that 4-minute mark immediately. So that's a really nice trick if you have a long piece of content and you're just trying to drive people to a certain segment. So that wraps up about all of the stuff that we cover in the content creation mode. Let's go ahead and look at the final things of organization now that we've got stuff. So if we've already saved a draft, we can hit Save Draft. Mad Eye Moody will spin its eye a couple of times, and voila. We can change that status. If you're working in a collaboration, you may want to change the status from pitch to either a draft or in progress or assigned, depending on if you're working as a group. You can also see the revisions. So let's say somebody made a change and you're like, oh man, we buggered up something. We needed to go back. We can browse revisions as long as you've been hitting save. And we can also predate and post-date your posts. So for instance, if you need to schedule something, you can do that as well. We can come down here and set a featured image. This is kind of nice if your theme supports it. And what this does is some themes will allow you to have an image next to the title and kind of a synopsis of your post before they go into the post. And that's what this feature does. Categories. This is the important part. We can create categories on the fly, such as, I don't know, tech, and maybe vlog. You can notice that you can add as many categories as you want to a post, or you can isolate it. So for instance, this is really about a vlog. Now, what I would encourage you, a little bit of logistics here. Don't have a whole bunch of categories. Just stick to the heavy hitting ones that you're always going to be writing. It makes navigation of your site a lot more manageable for you, as well as people who are reading and watching your content. Tags, these are the smaller topical things. If you do write about one-off things, tags are a really neat way of doing it so that you can come back to it. So for instance, I might say, I don't know, pirates and maybe a video. And these are navigatable, but also it kind of helps with people trying to find content if they search your site, or allows you to navigate to these one-off instances. But keep your category svelte. You want to keep it to the big topical things. Tags are the small topical things. And once we're done, we can hit publish. Now remember, if I hit publish right now, my site is not public, so I'm really just publishing it for myself, which is the reason why I like doing it this route. Allows you to sandbox everything, get your content ready, make it look the way that you want, and when you're all said and done, you take your entire site and make it public later. It just saves you a few extra steps of having to go back to publish things if you haven't set your site up for private first. I'm gonna go ahead and hit publish. And now we have our first post. Now, for our second post, what I want to show is the new editor.